Great news, Trudeau is about to fix the housing crisis in Canada by building 3.9 million homes by 2031. Or, if you break it down, that's 557,000 homes per year, 46,000 homes per month, 1,526 homes per day, or 64 homes per hour. And this is titled Solving the Housing Crisis, Canada's Housing Plan. And in a recent news conference, Trudeau said that his latest efforts are the most comprehensive and ambitious housing plan ever seen in Canada. It's a plan to build housing, including for renters, on a scale not seen in generations. We're talking about almost 3.9 million homes by 2031. So like most government announcements, this one is not only disappointing, but it's actually impossible. For context, the most homes we've ever built in a single year in Canada was back in the 70s, and it was around 274,000 homes. So this is doubling that record for every year for the next 7 years to build 3.9 million homes. So in today's video, I'm going to get into this plan and talk about some of the major points from it. But just before I do, if you're new here, my name is Andrew Stevens, and I'm a realtor in Halifax, and I've been doing this for 9.5 years. And if you want to be educated on the real estate market, then this is the channel for you. So hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to book a call or a meeting with me to chat about real estate, or if you're thinking about making a move in the Halifax-Dartmouth area, you can reach out to me anytime in the Calendly link below my description at a time when it's convenient for you. Okay, so I'm going to get right into this, and I'm not going to talk about the full plan. It's a 28-page PDF, which I will link down below in the description if you want to get into all the details. But I'm going to talk about some of the key points and some of the ones that have been featured throughout the media here over the last few weeks. So this plan is broken down into 3 sections. 1. Building more homes. By bringing down the cost of home building, helping cities make it easier to build homes at a faster pace, changing the way Canadian home builders manufacture homes, and growing the workforce to ensure we get the job done. 2. Making it easier to own or rent a home by ensuring that every renter or homeowner has a home that suits their needs and stability to retain it. And 3. Helping Canadians who can't afford a home by building more affordable housing for students, seniors, persons with disabilities, equity-deserving communities, and eliminating chronic homelessness in Canada. So let's start off with the obvious. It's simply not possible. We're talking 3.9 million homes by 2031. And again, I said it in the intro, but this works out to 557,000 homes per year for the next 7 years. So that's essentially taking our record of how many homes we built back in the 70s, doubling it and doing it every year for the next 7 years. At a time when interest rates are not at their lowest, at a time when land is priced extremely high, at a time where there's a labor shortage, at a time where labor is extremely expensive, and at a time when material is also extremely expensive. So you need to ask yourself, is this plan actually possible? And for context, if I look based on the most recent numbers I can get, right now our housing starts for Q1 of 2024 are sitting just under 53,000. This is slightly up from Q1 of 2023, which was just under 47,000, and slightly up from Q1 of 2022, which was just over 48,000. Again, for context, these starts in Q1 of 2022, we ended up completing just under 220,000 housing units that year. So ask yourself, how is this shaping up for 557,000 completions each year? And the answer is simple. We are not going to. In terms of the housing data I can pull from Stats Canada, the most recent data for housing completions is sitting at 2022. So in those last 5 years, from 2018 to 2022, the housing completions were an average of about 205,000 homes built. Now, if I go the 10 years previous to that, in those 10 years, we didn't have a single year in Canada where we built over 200,000 homes. So again, this goal of 557 per year over the next 7 years is just not going to happen. Especially when you consider that the landscape for building currently is much worse for developers than it was 10 years ago. So there's a few other items I'm going to touch on in this video, and these are kind of some of the key ones that I've been seeing in the media that were kind of the major points of this housing plan. So number one is the new 30-year amortization for first-time homebuyers buying new construction housing. Now, this is something that sounds great, but when you actually think about it, it really is not something I see that's going to move the needle for first-time homebuyers in our market here in Halifax, Dartmouth, anyway, to say the least. Maybe in Toronto or Vancouver, but I can't really speak to that. So here in Halifax, most first-time home buyers that I'm dealing with are working with a budget somewhere in the realm of up to $450,000 or maybe $500,000, and I might see the odd person that can spend $600,000 or $700,000, but I would say those situations are few and far between. Well, if I look at what's on the market in terms of new construction, there's basically nothing in the price range that new first-time home buyers are going to be able to afford. So right now in HRM specifically, the average price of a new construction listing is sitting right around $785,000. So again, I don't see this as something that's going to move the needle because first-time home buyers can't purchase within this range as a general statement, at least not often. So because of this, I don't see it as something that's really going to change. And on top of that, changing from a 25-year amortization to a 30-year amortization at a $600,000 mortgage, just as an example, is only saving a buyer about $250 per month. So it's not an amount that I see as like, oh, now all of a sudden we can have 30-year amortization. So now all these first-time home buyers are going to start buying new construction. Second one I want to touch on is the increase to how much you can pull out of your RSP to buy your first property. So this was just changed. It was increased from $35,000 up to $60,000. Now, again, maybe in some of the major markets like Toronto and Vancouver, this might move the needle a little bit for people. But I can tell you, out of all the deals I've done for first-time home buyers, which is probably a couple hundred in my career at this point, I've never once had a buyer look at me and say, oh, if I could pull more money from my RSP, I would be able to buy a better house. That's not the case. The problem is not that they can't get the money out of the RSP. The problem is that these young professionals don't have the money to put into an RSP in the first place. It's really hard to save a down payment with the landscape of the cost of living in terms of rent and your car payment and your student loans and all these things as a young professional. So again, maybe this will move the needle in some of the bigger markets across Canada, but I don't see it as something that's going to make a major change in the Halifax-Dartmouth area. Number three, they're going to extend the foreign buyer ban to January of 2027. So again, this is something that might move the needle a little bit in some of the bigger markets, but here in Halifax, Dartmouth, it's a very small percentage of the overall real estate transactions. So I don't see this as something that's really going to make a difference. And even across Canada, it's a very small percentage of these buyers that are coming in from out of country. So the foreign buyer ban really here in Halifax, Dartmouth, I haven't seen as something that's made a huge, huge difference to our market. Yes, it would make a little bit of a difference, and I have dealt with some people that were unable to purchase because of the buyer ban, but there's so many exceptions now that it's not really going to make a big difference in our local market here in Nova Scotia. Number four is a new Canadian Renters Bill of Rights. So this is something that's new. It's supposed to give you history on what the previous tenants were paying for rent so that renters can make a sound decision of how much they're going to pay for a unit. Now, this is something that I find really interesting, and they talk about a standard lease for a national lease. So I don't really get this. I don't understand why they're doing this. Tenancy acts are provincially regulated, so it's something that is going to be different for all the provinces anyway. There's different rules, there's different regulations, there's different rent caps and all of that. So I don't really understand this one. And I also don't really understand why it makes a difference of what the tenant before you was paying, because the reality is market rent is market rent. It's what they're going to pay, it's what the landlord's going to charge, and it's what a willing renter is going to be able to pay. And in our current landscape with less than a 1% vacancy rate in Halifax, Dartmouth, I don't think anything like this would make a difference because there's so much demand and so little supply that people are going to be willing to pay the rental prices based on what they need to pay. It just is what it is. It costs what it costs, and developers are likely not going to lower their rents unless there was a lot more supply into our marketplace. And number five, this is the last one I'm going to talk about in this video. I've seen this one in the news quite a bit as well. This one's offering more money, affordable loans for people to put additional suites on their property. So we're talking secondary suites, we're talking backyard suites and all of that. And while I do believe this will get a lot of steam going forward based on the landscape of purchasing properties in Canada and in Halifax, Dartmouth, I don't see this something that's going to move the needle right away. I think it's going to take some time to adopt these kinds of things. And right now in Halifax, Dartmouth specifically, we already have a $40,000 interest-free loan that you can take to put a backyard suite in. So either way, we already have this. So I don't think it's going to make a huge difference, but this is one that the media kind of ran with. And not that I think it's a bad idea by any means, but I don't think it's something that all of a sudden we're going to start to see, 100,000 of these units built in the next 5 years. That's for sure. Now, in general, it's not all bad. There are some good things in this plan, and I would encourage you to go through it in detail and make your own, kind of opinions of what this is going to look like. But in general, there's some good things in here. So there's some more money being put forth for affordable housing. There's some more money put forth to train skilled tradespeople. They'd remove the GST from new builds for apartments. So they're doing good things, but I just don't see where this adds up to 3.9 million homes by 2031. So I'm not trying to kind of, crap all over this plan by any means. There are some good things in here, and anything that's going to help move the needle at all is a win, in my opinion. But the fact that they're up there saying they're going to build 3.9 million homes by 2031 is it's ridiculous. It's not going to happen, not even close anywhere near that number, in my opinion. So all in all, to me, this is just kind of a political move here. They're saying they're going to help, curb the housing crisis, which to me is not possible. And I think their goal is impossible. So I think the Liberals are really setting themselves up for failure with this one. I don't think they're even going to be close to hitting that number of 3.9 million homes. But I'd be curious to see what you think. Again, I linked it down below. Check it out, read through it, drop in the comments what you think about this plan. Are you pro the plan or are you against the plan? Do you think it's even remotely possible to build anywhere near 3.9 million homes across Canada by 2031? I would love to hear what you think in the comments below. And if you're still here watching and you got any value out of this video, all I ask is that you hit that like button and you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future content. And that'll help push this out to more people like you who may be interested in being educated in the Canadian, Halifax, and Nova Scotia real estate markets. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support and have a great day.